We are in Central Park in the heart of New York, and I am joined today by Dr. Mukesh Aghi, who is the President and the Chief Executive Officer of the US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Dr. Aghi, we are in the middle of the election season. We are also in the just concluded visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the US. What for you would be the big takeaways of the Prime Minister's 3-day visit to the United States of America?
You have to understand, I think this was a very, very transformative visit. The Quad Summit, the bilateral and other meetings. When you look at the outcome of the Quad Summit, to me it's like the Marshall Plan on technology for India. I think US is committed to make India a manufacturing industrial base. And the war in Ukraine has shown that you need to have a large industrial base to be able to manage those affairs itself. And Biden administration has been absolutely committed, more than any other president, to drive this. And he has been able to convince his national security agencies, Defense Department, and other agencies to make sure the process of technology transfer continues with India.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Aghi, also a key highlight of the visit seemed to be that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's peace message. You know, we saw him speaking at the Quad. He's met the Palestinian president. He's met the Ukrainian president, Zelensky, now for the third time in about 4 months. Do you think Prime Minister Modi is emerging as this ambassador of peace, somebody who's taking the pioneering effort to ensure these two wars come to an end?
No, absolutely. I think what you have to understand, you have a economically rising India, which is asserting itself on a global positioning itself. And the role, the leadership of Prime Minister is conveying that India can be a peacemaker while it tries to assert its position in the global order. So yes, to answer your question, Prime Minister is coming out as a peacemaker.
Mm-hmm. India-US relations, Dr. Aghi, we see President Biden hosted the Prime Minister at his private residence in Delaware. Then we also saw a detailed statement from the White House. Do you think the India-US relations are at the best time ever right now, if we can say?
I think it's just a start. You have to understand this relationship will go much more broader, deeper. It is I call a steroid start to drive this relationship. I think the challenge is going to be for us in India to be able to leverage some of the initiatives taken. Yes, you'll have bureaucratic hurdles on both sides, but I think private sector has to play a very critical role taking lead on some of the technology transfer initiatives which are taking place. Overall, I think geopolitically, the China factor plays very, very strongly between the two countries. China will never accept India as an equal partner. Let's understand that very, very clearly. And India on its own cannot deal with the might of China, the aggression of China. It needs a friend, and that's where US comes in. And we have 5.5 million Indian Americans, which are making roughly 1.5% of the total population, generating 6% of GDP. So I think the combination of geopolitical interest, economic interest, and diaspora interest will drive this relationship much broader.
Because I saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaking at the diaspora event and saying that, you know, India is a land today of opportunities. We don't wait for opportunities, we generate opportunities. Also speaking about how Indian 5G market is now bigger than even the US. So I'm saying semiconductors is one area where India and the US are looking very, very closely to collaborate and take the partnership further.
So you have to understand, India is today a $4 trillion economy. It will become a $5 trillion economy by 2027 and keep on growing 7 to 8%. It is providing a lot of market opportunity. Classic case would be Apple. You know, Apple 3 years ago was not manufacturing anything in India. Today, 25% of the iPhone 16 are being manufactured in India by Apple. But more important is today Apple's revenue in India has crossed $5 billion. So it's not just about de-risking supply chain in India, it's also about grabbing the market opportunity in India also.
Dr. Aghi, I'll move on now to the US elections because we're just a month away from the United States elections. What do you think the mood of the American public is regarding the US elections? Who do you think has the edge, if I may ask you, a month ahead of when we're talking about votes will be cast?
Well, we look at all the data, and I think the data shows that it's very, very close. Because when you have electoral college, you have certain swing states which will make a difference. And when you look at it in more details, there'll be certain districts which will make a difference. So in Michigan, for example, 10,000 votes last time. Wisconsin last time, 10,000 votes. So what we see is is a very, very close election. But you have to understand, regardless of Harris who comes in or regardless of Trump who comes in, the relationship with India will continue in a positive direction.
I saw you speaking to us a couple of months ago when you were indicating that Joe Biden at that time was in the running, but you said maybe he's struggling a bit because many people think he will not make the cut. With Kamala Harris now coming in and Joe Biden stepping out of the race, do you think the chance of the Democrats has brightened in this election?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you look at after the debate debacle, President Biden's rating was down. The Democrats were kind of downtrodden, not feeling that they can win. And all the numbers shows that Trump was leading by double digit. But now things have turned around. People are excited about Harris. People are excited about the debate she did. People are excited about the convention which took place in Chicago. And so I think there is now an even fight taking place between the two candidates. And so I think Democrats are much more hopeful. And you can see that by the money she's raising. I mean, to say she's probably spending roughly over $2 billion on this election, and all this coming from small donors, $10, $20. So I think what we are seeing is the grassroots has stepped up and contributing quite a bit to the campaign funding.
We saw Donald Trump survive at least 2 assassination attempts during this campaign. Do you think there will be a public sympathy factor for Mr. Trump, given the way the assassination attempts happened? He survived them, but he's also spoken about them, how he's being targeted.
Well, there was a sympathy factor early on, but I think that's gone away. I think people are saying, looking at the policies, people are saying which president can lead the country economically, for an immigration issue, on defense issue, the war in Ukraine, war in Middle East itself, dealing with China. So I think the assassination sympathy has disappeared by now.
And also the USP about, I think, Kamala Harris, when I speak to some women voters here, 53% of voters in America are women. There is this urge to see a woman in the chair for the first time. I know Hillary Clinton couldn't do it. Do you think that factor will go in the favor of Kamala Harris, especially amongst the women voters, the young voters, for example?
I think what we are seeing is the women voters are supporting Kamala Harris on the issue of abortion. I think that's the key factor. I think every woman says, I need to have a right to decide what I want to do with my body. But that's more with the college-educated women, and also what we're seeing with the younger voters. You have to understand, roughly 4 million young voters have entered since the last election. They turned 18 to be able to vote itself. Yeah. So I think that factor is playing a very critical role.
The Taylor Swift generation, I would say.
The Swifties are making an impact itself. But will that sway? We don't know, because, see, you have to understand, what is a woman in Midwest thinking? Is she convinced with Kamala Harris that she can deal with the dictators outside? Can she deal with the immigration issue? Can she deal with the economy itself? Because those Midwest states are the swing states, and that's where the election is going to be decided.
Very interesting, Mukesh Aghi. And who do you think is better for India? Being from an Indian point of view, who would you prefer if you see from an Indian point of view in the chair come November?
Well, I think both are good. And I'll tell you why. Because the approach of Trump is very transactional. And when it's transactional, he's able to build a relationship with Prime Minister Modi and make things happen. Whereas Kamala Harris will be a much more structured approach. She will have a team which will drive the policy process. Both have the positive and both have the challenges also. So I think our approach is, we're very bipartisan from an organization perspective. Our objective is to make sure that whoever the candidate comes in, the process continues, the commitment continues, and make sure the relationship flourishes both short-term and long-term also.
That is Dr. Mukesh Aghi very clearly saying that the young generation, the women and the swing states could well determine who wins US come November. On Mr. Modi's historic visit, Mr. Aghi is very clear that what has been achieved in the India-US relationship is just a start. This relationship will grow stronger by the day, and it doesn't matter who's in the chair come November. The US-India bilateral relationship is strong and here to stay. Saman Sharma with Manoj Menon for CNN News 18 from New York.